incarcerated leader, Chief Mr. Yasin Malik, and she also heads a cultural forum on Kashmir. Ms. Mashal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm really honored and grateful that I'm sitting with such a respectable panel over here. Tall Hurriyat leaders, human rights activist Mr. Nasir, who has co-authored a report with between Legal Forum and Stop White, and they have collected around 2,000 testimonies of Kashmiri victims from all walks of life, be it children, women, people from the media, a common man on the road, elderly. And this is something which was much needed. I think when we compare it with the Palestinians, as I mentioned in the previous event of yours, when you launched the first report, that arbitrary detention, individuals, and how one of the very famous Palestinian lawfare expert, he visited us in Pakistan. He was like, for us, we had no weapons. The only weapons that Palestinians had to expose the Israeli settlements over there was the camera. And through the camera was a gun, and the focusing, they would focus, and when they would click, that would be the bullet. And then they would expose that to the world, what the Israelis were doing there. So whatever you are doing right now, along with your team, hats off to you, because Palestine is still a place which is accessible to the world when you compare it to Kashmir, because maybe Kashmir is called heaven on earth, and you can only enter heaven once you die. And the people who are fighting for the right to self-determination on this holy land, I won't call them humans, I would call them angels, because they have extraordinary qualities which are not human, because we've not seen any examples such as this in history. Like, I'm a small student of history, that how a nation has been combating for the past 75 years against the worst form of human rights violations, brutalities, unarmed and defenselessly, and riding and standing up for the right to resistance. So these are things which are God gifted, and this nation is divinely gifted with that energy. But at the same time, to record all those atrocities, because the devil of this era is definitely, it's not Hitler, it is the Indian state. And the wolf has actually come out of its curtain. I wouldn't say that the Congress was an angel, but through the RSS, we've seen the real face of the Indian state and how they are changing the demography. And because Khurram Pervez, who is the eyes and the movie or the vision, he's one of those icons that we have who became a mirror of all the atrocities of Kashmiri people to the world. How he showcased it to the world, and how Gregory Stanton said when he read the report, the structure of violence, he said this is genocide, which is the highest crime in the world. And collecting data when the courts are under the Indian control, police stations are under Indian control, the defense line of the Kashmir freedom movement are the journalists over there. And I have many dear friends in Kashmir, and when I went there for the first time, I've met most of the icons over there. I was blessed to meet those legendary figures, those Hurriyat leaders, those human rights activists, and the way they have this romanticism of holding a camera, of doing reporting in bullets outside our window, and I would be peeping out, and I'd be looking out at protests in Mysuma Lal Chowk. I'd be like, God, man, they're just capturing all those violations and reporting everything. They're so fearless, and then they get arrested, they get disappeared. And I would recommend all of you, the people sitting in the audience, most of you are intellectual who are interested in investigative journalism, and I would also request the Pakistani journalists that please, we don't want a general approach on Kashmir. We want research-based work, expose the Indian atrocities. And then a very important point, because Nasir is also a lawyer, because most of the detention laws, Y. Khurram and other important journalists and Kashmiri Hurriyat leaders have been arrested, is because of those draconian laws like Armed Forces Special Powers Act, TADA, POTA, and all these acts, these draconian laws, they're all colonial laws, which became invalid after the partition. They're invalid in Britain. Yet those sedition laws, those articles, those draconian laws are being imposed on the Kashmiri activists, on the Kashmiri leaders, on the Kashmiri human rights defenders, Kashmiri media people, and these are invalid laws. So this is a very strong case. If you take it forward internationally, I've done a bit of working on it. I can share some of the material with you. I don't want everything to be exposed through the media, where you can help us. And one more thing I would like to say, because when we speak about human rights violations and then the topic of RSS comes in, so we've seen the rage, the wave of Hindutva, and how they're completely eliminating all of us, and how fast, as Mashahid Saab mentioned quite beautifully, in a very encapsulated manner, in a summarized manner, what India is doing. He gave the statistics also of how many millions of Indians are getting domiciles and getting voter rights. But they're doing it at a very fast pace. But you will be amazed at one alarming fact of history, that Hindutva is a philosophy which came into existence because after 350 years of the Mughal era, which the RSS exposes as Muslim invaders. And they say, the RSS philosophy says that they came to eliminate Hinduism. However, in reality, if you go through the facts and figures, that during those 350 years of rule of the Muslims on the subcontinent, in Hindustan, when they left, 82% of the people were Hindus. There was no change in the demography. And then came the British. And when the GDP, during the colonial rule, you'll be shocked, which they always, because that is the excuse they lay for, eliminating all the Muslim populations in the world. So this is very important, that we need to look at the facts, that the GDP during the Mughal era, I know it's out of context, but it's also in context. It was 23% during the Mughal era. And when they left and the British came, it was 0.2%. So we can expose India to any extent when it changes the demography, these invalid laws. And then coming to the top resistance leadership also, including my husband, him being a Kashmiri and I being a Pakistani citizen married to a Kashmiri, we are in a grief party. We are willing, me and my daughter, she's here, I don't know, maybe she's gone out in the swings, but we are willing to give our testimony along with other people who are sitting here, Waleed Saab and others. I'm willing to go wherever you want, whatever proofs I have, whatever injustice we have gone through because of the Indian forces and the Indian laws, and how they've also put my name in the NIA as an agent. I mean, for them, every Kashmiri is an agent without any proofs. So these are things which we need to challenge, and I can be arrested. If I have to go to meet my husband, I'll be arrested. So what's the point? So we need a safe passage. We need to get our Kashmiri leaders, political prisoners, including the human rights defenders, released, and we need to take it internationally under universal declaration, be it International Court of Justice, international, creating a commission of inquiry or criminal tribunals, the way Mr. Stanton made for in the case of Yugoslavia and Ukraine, that they're trying to form those as well, those criminal tribunals. So why not for Kashmiris when we have an authentic report such as this, which is based on facts and figures? This is our evidence. This is, you call it forensic, whatever you want to call it. Visuals, photographic evidences, testimonies, all encapsulated in this, which cannot be challenged. So we need to go, even if we take one case internationally, I think that will bring a definite jolt to Indian state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mashal. Inshallah, the next move would be a practical and pragmatic level on 3 or 4 cases. I cannot disclose them, but we are after it. We have lodged a strong lawfare against India. What India did on 5th of August, it was based on law, and the counter was lawfare. But we are organization, we are not a state. But yes, definitely after this would be a flagship, inshallah. Among those cases, Yasin would be there, inshallah. We hope for the best, and very soon, inshallah. And now we have 2 very learned, experienced, 4 decades of experience guests One among is Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani Sahab. Wani Sahab is heading UN desk on Kashmir. He's also living in exile, and he has 4 decades of experience working on human rights in Geneva. He knows every, technical aspects. I would request Altaf Hussain Wani Sahab.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। इतना लंबा होकर भी मुझे ऊपर उठना पड़ता है। Thank you, Nasir Saab, for providing this opportunity, and I must commend the work of Snow White, also the Legal Forum for Kashmir, and their other partners in producing this wonderful report. They've already produced a report in January 2020, and this is second in the series. And this report has a huge value when it comes to international human rights systems, when you fight it legally and internationally at any case. Previously, we have received such reports from the Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society, as one of the reports which Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society produced in 2012, that was alleged perpetrators, and that had 133 cases documented that from small, that is settled with the reference of that report is mentioned in all the human rights reports produced internationally by international organizations and also by the United Nations Human Rights Commission. As we were talking about these reports, Sagar Saab mentioned that politics is all the political leaders and anybody in Kashmir is in nature a human rights defender. And political leaders are defined as human rights defenders because they are defending the rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. When it comes to this report here, all those journalists, why they are behind bars? Why there are cases against them? Because they were reporting about the political situation arising out of the human rights violation perpetrated by the Indian forces in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. That's why Indian state went against them. It was why Khurram Parvez is again behind the bars, because Khurram Parvez was the only link between the Kashmiri masses and the United Nations human rights system. He was the one, if you have gone through the report of the United Nations High Commissioner of 2018 and 2019, you will find all the references to the reports of Jammu Kashmir Coalition Civil Society. And Khurram has a huge reputation internationally, and on his arrest we have seen how the whole human rights system condemns his arrest. And as far as the United Nations human rights Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, Lola Mary tweeted that Khurram is a human rights defender, not a terrorist. It was a slap on the face of Indian democracy. Not only this, on the same day when Khurram was arrested, the Asian Forum for Enforced Disappearances, they elected Khurram again as their chair. It means a lot for Kashmiri people that our struggle is being recognized internationally. The struggle of our political leaders, the struggle of our human rights defenders is being recognized internationally. What we have to do with these reports, unfortunately, which we want to convey to our media in Pakistan, to other people, the Pakistani academia, Pakistani universities and others, that responsibility lies on you to disseminate these reports. These reports like these should be disseminated. The reviews should be written on these reports, and media should talk about these reports. We will see that how the media will cover this report, how they will talk on this report, how they will arrange talk shows on these reports and other reports which have been produced in Kashmir, so that they can come into the light to the international audience. We always say that international organizations are not talking about Kashmir. But yesterday, the Institute of Statistical Studies released a report where we saw a huge wealth of information that how international people are concerned about the Kashmir, how they have talked about Kashmir, but we need to read about that, then we need to disseminate that. I will end with this. In 2011, the United Nations 4 special rapporteurs, they produced a report on these interrogation centers worldwide. And they had a whole chunk according about the situation in Indian occupied Kashmir, where they at that time found more than 200 secret detention centers where political leaders, human rights activists, and ordinary people were tortured. So there is a wealth of information, but the need of the hour is that not producing only reports is our job. We produce its reports, but you have to take it to the international level. And I congratulate Nasir Qadri Saab for having a partner in the United Kingdom like Snow White. They are our partners, but we have to keep on supporting them, keep on disseminating them so that they can get also encouraged by that if they have done same, they will do again. We have received lots of reports from different people, but we need to send letters to them to thank them that they have spoken for us. As Sagar Saab said, then the rest is on the governments to how to deal with the case. Thank you very much.
We have last speaker, but after the azan, please be so we have a last speaker. Before I'll pass on to Dr. Sheikh Walid Rasul Sahab. Again, Sheikh Walid Rasul Sahab, he has been an active member of War of Liberation movement in his days in occupied territory. Now the additional thing, since this is my 5th year, I have a close acquaintance, an academic acquaintance with the Sheikh Walid Rasul Sahab. We have traveled together. We have shared so many things about the resolution of this, about the international law, and the one quality Walid Rasul Sahab would share. Recently we have traveled on this particular thing together. He can also share his experience, how much a Kashmiri can do, how much an indigenous organizations. He himself runs an think tank, namely IDDS. So maybe he can share, but it is a matter of a trust. Someone has to trust. Walid Saab has, we were in a meeting outside country, and he has told an apt to put it in a legal way that we are victim parties and Pakistan is the first party of the dispute. Now, what are the rights and duties of these parties under any law, domestic or international law? So Dr. Waleed Rasool Sahab.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Almighty Allah is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. And you know how much it takes to collect the pieces and assemble it together to make a prima facie evidence against those atrocities which are committed in occupied Kashmir against our masses. I really appreciate young man, Advocate Qadri Saab, having an energy to evolve a new dimension, that is legal warfare dimension, which was missing so far. Number one. Number two, to have some case studies, innovative and legal perspective, how we can reach to international arena. So this is itself a remarkable contribution in our resistance struggle. Now when you are talking about these reports and its significance to the international order, then the role of media is very much vital. When communication is choked, when lips are stitched, when red hot blood oozes from the veins of our people, it is only these cameras, it is this pen which represents my pain multidimensionally. Now I don't want to get your much of time. I'm thankful to Sagar Saab, always stood with us, and one of the towering personality working on human rights, friend Altaf Saab, and wife of our great hero Yasin Saab, and here the brother of Sheikh Abdul Aziz is also sitting, who used to my mentor and father-like, and during my entire days in the battlefield, we shared the pain and the sweat together. I appreciate their all efforts. My suggestion is very simple. This gentleman worked in International Union of Journalists and also now the Stokes to collect the data from the primary sources of Indian occupied Kashmir is not an easy job. It is very difficult, tedious, and very challenging. Number one. Number two, if you know the current situation of the globe, it is interdependent world, it is post-modern world, the media is a vital and significant constituency of the resistance. So when you are putting these evidences in the media, it may reach to international economies of power which matter internationally. So it is the contribution. Number four, when you are saying about resistance, our young generation is delivering up to the quantum probably we were missing when I was in the field, or when Sagar Saab or Elder, during the days of the turmoil, when there was a havoc by Indian occupational forces, and they continue. This is the movement, harkat karna. So we will keep this movement, but with three things. That is haqqul yaqeen ke saath, with utter determination we will continue it to last conclusion. Ilmul yaqeen, that is this, the knowledge that we are giving the huge cost for the great cause, that's freedom against India at any cost. And then haqqul yaqeen, this is our determination. Wama alayna illa al-balagh.
Jazakumullah. As already I said, he is my contemporary mentor because he always, not today, but Mr. Sheikh Waleed Rasool, always he trusted us He trusted me, and I would request everyone, if they don't know us, trust my team. We are here for a cause. We have left something for a cause, and not an iota of, we have a craving to become our leaders. We came to defeat India, जैसे ने अज़म की बात की, and inshallah we have to undo this occupation through lawfare, politically, legally, or any other means which include taking up arms. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair. I didn't saw the brother of Shaheed Sheikh Abdul Aziz Sahab. Really, he's an icon. And recently उनकी बरसी भी थी. तो इन्हीं चीज़ों से मैं और मेरी टीम हम में वो वलबा, all because of the martyrs, all because of the sacrifices. तो उन चीज़ों से हम काम कर पाते हैं, और इंशाल्लाह जब तक हम इस इलीगल ऑक्यूपेशन को ख़त्म ना करें तो इंशाल्लाह हम थमने वाले नहीं हैं. कोई भी कश्मीरी, उनके पास वी हैव डिस्कस्ड द न्यू मोड्स ऑफ काउंटर इंसर्जेंसी एम्प्लॉयड बाय द ऑक्यूपाइंग ट्रूप्स, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. लेकिन इंशाल्लाह हमारे पास भी नए मेथड्स है उसको काउंटर करने के लिए, एंड विल डू इट इंशाल्लाह विद अ पैशन. जज़ाकुमुल्लाह खैर.
हौसला जीतता है, हथियार नहीं जीतता. हौसला जीतता है, हौसला बस हमें रखना है, इंशाल्लाह जीतेंगे.
चाय जैन चाय प्लीज. थैंक यू.